The Garage Workshop Uprising. Harold Hal Jenkins stood in the cavernous detached garage of his new bungalow in Maple Ridge, Ohio, the scent of motor oil and fresh pine mingling in the crisp November air. At 62, after 40 years wrenching on cars at the local Ford dealership and 18 months grieving his wife, Betty, he'd done something reckless, something just for himself. He'd cashed out his $18,000 life savings to buy this modest two-bedroom ranch with a sprawling garage, his dream workshop for restoring vintage motorcycles and brewing craft beer. The bungalow's peeling paint and creaky floors didn't bother him. The garage, with its high beams and concrete floor stained by decades of labor, was his sanctuary. He clutched a chipped mug of black coffee, his calloused hands steady, and felt a flicker of joy he hadn't known since Betty's laugh filled their old apartment. Inside the house, the place was sparse: a second-hand recliner, a wobbly dining table, a single bed with a quilt Betty had sewn. His fridge held basics: eggs, milk, bread, carrots, a block of cheddar, and his pantry had rice, beans, pasta, and a sack of barley for his first beer batch. His bank account had $1,200 left until his pension check. Tight, but enough if he stayed frugal. Today, he planned to unpack his tools, tinker with a 1972 Triumph Bonneville he'd bought for $800, and sign up at the Maple Ridge Historical Society to lead motorcycle history talks. The thought made him grin, picturing himself roaring down backroads, wind in his gray beard. His phone buzzed on the workbench, shattering the quiet. His daughter, Megan, 38, a struggling lifestyle influencer from Cleveland, flashed on the screen. Hal's chest tightened. He hoped for a kind word about the bungalow, though Megan had scoffed at the purchase. "Dad, why waste your money on that old place?" she'd said. "Stay in your apartment near us. It's smarter." Smarter, Hal knew, meant available to fix her car, babysit her kids, or fund her latest brand deal. "Hey, kiddo," Hal answered, his gravelly voice warm despite a prickle of unease. "Dad, listen up," Megan said, no greeting, her tone clipped. "We're coming today. Me, Jake, the kids, his parents, and some cousins. 15 of us. Be there in 2 hours. Get food and beds ready. Oh, and Jake's cousin Lisa needs gluten-free stuff for her kids. We're staying through Black Friday, maybe longer for a family retreat. See you." She hung up. Hal's mug slipped, coffee splashing his boots. 15 people? His heart pounded, a cold weight settling in his gut. His 1,200 square foot bungalow had 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 6 plates, and a fridge stocked for 1. 2 weeks, maybe more? With what money? He'd spent his savings on the house, the deed signed last week. The freedom he'd felt moments ago evaporated like oil on a hot engine. He shuffled to the kitchen, opening the fridge as if it might hold a miracle. 8 eggs, a half-gallon of milk, 2 tomatoes, a cucumber, the cheddar. The pantry had a bag of rice, 2 cans of beans, a box of pasta, and the barley. His wallet held $80 in cash, his bank account $1,200. Feeding 15 for weeks would cost hundreds, maybe thousands. Beds? His bed, the recliner, a few blankets. Were they sleeping on the garage floor? Worse than the logistics was the truth: Megan hadn't asked. She demanded, as if Hal's home, his garage, his dreams were theirs to claim. He sank into the recliner, memories flooding back. Megan showing up at his old apartment with Jake's family, eating his groceries, leaving dishes piled high. After Betty's funeral, Megan had taken her mother's jewelry box, saying, "Dad, you don't need this. It's just stuff." Hal, lost in grief, had let her. He'd always let her, always said yes to avoid a fight. Gravel crunched outside. Hal peered through the garage's side window. 3 SUVs and a minivan pulled into his driveway, doors slamming, voices loud and carefree. Megan, Jake, her laid-off tech husband, their kids, Avery, 10, and Noah, 7, Jake's parents, his cousin Lisa, her husband, and a swarm of cousins spilled out. Suitcases, coolers, and Amazon packages littered the lawn. They looked like they were checking into a resort, not visiting a widower's new home. "Dad!" Megan shouted, hauling a cooler. "Help with the bags." Hal stepped onto the driveway, gripping his coffee mug. "Megan, you didn't say 15 people were coming. I don't have food or space." Chill, Dad, Megan cut in, brushing past. It's a family retreat. You love hosting. This garage is huge, perfect for the kids to play. Jake, a lanky man in his 40s, clapped Hal on the shoulder. Sweet setup, Hal. Plenty of room, right? The kids are pumped to explore. Lisa, juggling a toddler, chimed in. Hal, you got gluten-free bread? My kids can't eat regular. And where's the Wi-Fi? I need to post for my brand. Hal's jaw clenched. Wi-Fi. He hadn't set it up. Gluten-free bread? He barely had regular bread. The kids were already tearing through his garage, scattering his tools. Jake's father, Ron, complained about the stuffy house. No AC, he said, fanning himself. I don't have food for 15, Hal said, his voice shaking. Or beds. This is a small place. Megan rolled her eyes. Dad, don't make a scene. You always pull through. Hit the store. Hal's stomach churned, that old hollow ache he'd felt every time Megan treated him like a handyman. He remembered her borrowing $2,000 for a camera lens, never repaid, or Jake using his apartment for his gaming nights, leaving chip bags everywhere. He'd always been the reliable dad, the one who fixed everything. But this was his garage, his triumph, his last shot at peace. I'll see what I can do, he said, grabbing his keys. He drove to Maple Ridge's Kroger, hands gripping the wheel of his '98 Chevy pickup. The store was a pre-Thanksgiving madhouse, carts overflowing with turkeys and pies. Hal calculated frantically: rice, beans, pasta, canned sauce, potatoes, carrots, cheap, stretchable food. No meat, no gluten-free anything. The total was $240, nearly all his cash and a chunk of his account. He had $960 left. Back home, chaos reigned. Grease stains smeared his garage floor from kids climbing his workbench. Jake was sprawled in the recliner, scrolling X. Lisa demanded hot water for formula. Megan had claimed Hal's bedroom, saying, "We need it, Dad. The kids can't sleep on the floor." Hal cooked in a daze, boiling pasta and heating sauce, tears pricking his eyes, not from onions, but from rage and helplessness. He served the meal on his 6 plates, using bowls and pot lids for the rest. The family grumbled. No turkey? Ron said, poking his pasta. Thought you'd do a proper Thanksgiving spread. It's what I had, Hal said quietly. Jake laughed. Hal, you've got this big garage now. Must have some savings stashed. You can do better. Savings. They had no idea. He'd poured everything into this bungalow, his one act of rebellion after a life of giving. But they didn't care. They ate, criticized, and left dishes in the sink, assuming he'd clean up. That night, Hal slept in the recliner, his back screaming, while snores echoed from his bedroom and the garage, where sleeping bags cluttered his workspace. He stared at the ceiling, the distant hum of Maple Ridge's streetlights filtering through the window. He thought of Betty, who'd warned him, "Hal, you give too much. They'll bleed you dry." He hadn't listened. Now, at 62, he felt it, the slow drain of his spirit, his money, his dreams. The next morning, he woke at 5 a.m., joints aching. The garage was a disaster, empty beer cans, brought by Jake, juice stains, tools scattered. Jake was rummaging through the fridge. No coffee, he asked, annoyed. Kids need cereal. You got any? I don't have cereal, Hal said, his voice tight. I have eggs. Eggs for 15? Jake laughed. Hit the store. Grab some beer for the game and charcoal for a barbecue. Lisa's husband, Mark, appeared, thrusting a pile of kids' clothes at him. Hal, can you wash these? The baby had a blowout. And we need diapers. Forgot to pack enough. Hal's hands shook as he took the clothes. He didn't have a washer, only the laundromat. Diapers, beer, charcoal, more money he didn't have. The kids ran in, demanding breakfast, while Megan shouted, "Dad, is coffee ready?" Jake's cranky without it. Something snapped inside Hal, not loud or cinematic, but quiet, like a spark plug firing. He'd spent his life saying yes to Betty's medical bills, Megan's demands, Jake's family's entitlement. But this was his garage, his triumph, his sanctuary. He wouldn't let them steal it. "I'm going to town," he said, his voice steady. They cheered, assuming he was fetching their groceries. But Hal had other plans. He drove to Maple Ridge's main strip, past the Kroger, and parked outside the Rusty Wrench Diner. Inside, he ordered a coffee black, strong, and sat by the window, his thoughts racing. He needed a plan, not just to survive this invasion but to reclaim his life. "You okay, buddy?" the waiter, Tom, a grizzled ex-trucker in his 50s, asked. "You look like you're ready to blow a gasket." Hal hesitated, then spilled the story: the bungalow, the uninvited family, the demands. Tom nodded, his eyes sharp. "Sounds like my old man's story. His kids treated him like an ATM until he got therapy and set boundaries. You should talk to someone, maybe a lawyer, too." Therapy. Hal had been seeing Dr. Patel, a counselor, for grief since Betty's death. The idea of boundaries wasn't new, but applying it to his family felt like rewiring an engine blindfolded. Tom's mention of a lawyer sparked an idea. Hal remembered a sign for a law office near the Historical Society. He finished his coffee and walked to Carter & Sons, attorneys at law. The office was small, with motorcycle posters and a faint oil scent. He met Jack Carter, a wiry lawyer in his 50s with a biker's mustache, who listened intently. "Mr. Jenkins," Jack said, "this is financial and emotional abuse, family or not. You own this property. They can't treat it like a free motel. What can I do?" Hal asked, his voice low but hopeful. "You can set legal terms," Jack said. "Draft a short-term rental agreement, charge for lodging and services, or evict them if they refuse. Ohio law protects homeowners. They have no claim." Jack helped draft a contract: $120 per night for the bedroom, $60 for the garage floor, $40 per person per day for meals and utilities. It felt cold, charging family, but fair. Hal left with the papers and a spark of resolve. His next stop was the bank. The manager, a young woman named Sarah, reviewed his account with a frown. "You spent $540 in 2 days, Mr. Jenkins. That's not sustainable on your pension. Everything okay?" Hal explained, and Sarah nodded. "I've seen this with seniors, family draining their accounts. We can set a spending limit or require approval for large withdrawals. Talk to your lawyer about asset protection." Hal's final stop was his garage, where he'd left an old dashcam from his pickup. On a hunch, he'd mounted it on a shelf yesterday, angled to catch the workbench. He checked the footage on his laptop, heart racing. There it was, Megan and Jake, late last night, whispering by the Triumph. "We'll convince Dad to sell this place," Megan said. "My influencer account's tanking, and your crypto's gone. We need the equity for a new house in Cleveland." Jake nodded. "He's too soft. We'll guilt him into it. Say it's for the kids." Hal's blood ran cold. Betrayal, raw and sharp, cut deeper than any wrench to the knuckles. But the footage was gold evidence of their scheme. He saved it to a USB drive, his hands steady with purpose. Back home, the chaos had escalated. Kids had scattered his spark plugs, shouting about a treasure hunt. Jake was planning a Black Friday shopping spree, saying, "Hal, you're covering the gas, right? It's for the kids." Megan handed him a list: diapers, gluten-free pasta, beer, steaks, charcoal, pie ingredients. "We need this for Thanksgiving," she said. "Hurry, Dad." Hal set his $50 grocery bags, rice, beans, pasta, on the workbench. "This is what I got," he said calmly. Megan blinked. "Where's the rest? The steaks? The pie stuff?" "I didn't buy them," Hal said. "I can't afford it." The garage went quiet. Ron laughed nervously. "What do you mean? You bought this place. You've got money." Hal pulled out his bank statement, showing the $660 balance. I spent $540 feeding you for 2 days. This is all I have left. They stared, incredulous. Jake cleared his throat. Come on, Hal, you're exaggerating. You can't expect us to eat beans for Thanksgiving. Then contribute, Hal said, his voice like steel. He slid Jack's contract across the workbench. This is a rental agreement. If you stay, it's $120 per night for the bedroom, $60 for the garage floor, $40 per person for meals and utilities. Total for 2 weeks, $7,200. Silence. Megan's face reddened. You're charging us? Your family? I'm giving you options, Hal said. Pay for what you're using, or find a motel. Jake slammed his fist on the workbench, knocking over a wrench. This is insane. Betty would be ashamed, treating us like this. Hal's heart stung, but Dr. Patel's words echoed, your worth isn't their approval. Betty worked so I'd have peace, he said, not so you could use me as a free mechanic. You're in my home, uninvited. Lisa started crying, clutching her toddler. You're kicking us out? Where will we go? I'm not kicking you out, Hal said. I'm asking you to respect my limits. Motels are on Route 33. The argument erupted, Megan calling him selfish, Jake accusing him of greed, Ron muttering about ungrateful old coots. The kids hovered, Avery whispering, why's Grandpa mad? Hal's heart ached for them, but he stood firm. A knock interrupted. Tom from the diner stood at the garage door, holding a tray of cornbread. Heard you had a crowd, he said, stepping inside. His eyes scanned the mess, grease stains, scattered tools. Big group. Hope they're pitching in for groceries. The family froze, embarrassed. Tom's presence shifted the air. They're not, he asked, eyebrow raised. My goodness, when my kids visit, they bring food. Common courtesy, right? Megan muttered, it's a family retreat. Family takes care of family, Tom said sharply. Hal's on a fixed income. You can't expect him to fund your vacation. Hal seized the moment. I love having you here, but I can't afford this. Sign the agreement and contribute, or I'll help you find a motel. The family huddled, whispering. Jake tried one last tactic. Dad, think of the kids. You want them to remember you as the grandpa who threw them out? Hal looked at Avery and Noah, their faces uncertain. I want them to remember a grandpa who taught them respect, he said. You're their parents. Take care of them. Then Hal played his ace. He plugged the USB into his laptop, the dashcam footage projecting onto the garage wall. Megan and Jake's voices filled the space, plotting to sell his house. Gasps echoed. Avery's eyes widened, Noah looked at his parents, confused. You were gonna take Grandpa's house? Avery asked, voice breaking. Megan stammered, it's not like that. It's exactly like that, Hal said, his voice steady but heavy with grief. You don't love me. You need me. There's a difference. The garage fell silent, the weight of betrayal thicker than oil fumes. Jake's face crumpled, not with guilt but defeat. Megan's eyes filled with tears, but Hal saw no remorse, only panic at being caught. By evening, a decision. Megan, Jake, and their kids would stay, signing for $2,000 for the week, bedroom and meals. The others packed up, grumbling about finding a real Thanksgiving. As their SUVs left, Hal felt a strange mix, relief, but also a deep, aching sadness for the family he'd lost. The next week transformed. Megan and Jake cooked, cleaned, even helped organize Hal's tools. Avery apologized, saying, I didn't know they were using you, Grandpa. Noah handed him a spark plug he'd found, a small peace offering. Hal hugged them, tears falling, but the trust with Megan and Jake was fractured. Hal kept the dashcam running, catching Megan's quieter moments of guilt. One night, she helped him sand the Triumph's fender, saying, I'm sorry, Dad. I got caught up in my own mess. It wasn't full redemption, but it was a start. At Maple Ridge's Thanksgiving Harvest Festival, Hal shared his story with the Historical Society, who cheered his courage. Tom introduced him to retirees and teens wanting a motorcycle club. Hal played a snippet of the dashcam footage at the festival's open mic, titling it Grandpa's Garage Rebellion. The crowd roared, a local teen filmed it, and it went viral on X, racking up 100,000 views. Comments poured in, "This guy's a legend. Respect your elders." By spring, Hal had turned his garage into Maple Ridge Moto Haven, a workshop where seniors restored bikes and teens learned mechanics, swapping stories over his craft beer. His Triumph roared to life, gleaming under the garage lights. His days brimmed with engine roars, laughter, and new friends. Megan called occasionally, asking for small favors, but Hal learned to say, "Sorry, kiddo, I can't." She hung up angry at first, then sighed and moved on. The sadness lingered. His daughter wasn't the girl he'd raised, but the garage was alive with chosen family. One evening, Hal roared down a back road on the Triumph, Tom riding shotgun with a beer. "You did good, Hal," Tom said. "You showed Em who's boss." Hal grinned, the wind whipping his beard, the scent of hops and freedom in the air. "I showed myself," he said. And for the first time in years, he felt gloriously, unapologetically free. A man's worth is not measured by how much he gives away, but by the courage to protect what he has built for himself. Hal, a 62-year-old widower, learns that true family respects boundaries, not exploits grief. By exposing betrayal with cold evidence and enforcing hard limits, he reclaims his garage, his dignity, and his future, proving that even in late life, one can choose self-respect over obligation, turn personal pain into community strength, and ride free on the road he paves himself.